Chelsea reportedly sitting on a gold mine. Yo, what's going on, friends? How's it going? Welcome back to Football Therapy with me, your host, Jan. I do hope you're doing well, mate. I really do hope that. And welcome back to Chelsea News, which, of course, is the daily series here on the channel where I go through the internet, see what's being said about Chelsea, give you my thoughts, feelings, and opinions on it. But as always, more importantly, we're a community here, so I ask for yours. In today's video, there's lots of stuff to get into. The situation with Romeo Lavia that's been reported on The Athletic. Moises Caicedo plays all the minutes. Oh my god, if he breaks, we are screwed, especially in the absence of Dario Asugo and now Romeo Lavia. The positives about international call-ups: the aforementioned Moy is only playing one friendly with Ecuador. Enzo Fernandez has not gone away with Argentina, which is a huge blessing. And although the Brazilian trio have been called up to the Samba Boys international fun, what am I saying? Even though the Brazil lads are all going, they're staying in Europe for 2 games, which is a huge positive. We're also going to go to football.london and read about some transfer valuations, some player valuation stuff. I know what you're thinking, money talk again, but it is actually interesting and it could be an indicator of the project working in some ways. I know not everyone's convinced, but I do want to read this article and share some numbers with you. And I'm going to start the video in a moment on a couple of news sources I've decided to boycott, which is paradoxical because I'm literally going to cite them here. But yeah, I'll explain in just a moment. Housework though, thanks for joining me. Thank you for your recent support. Yesterday's video was well received, so I'm so glad you guys are enjoying the content. I'm putting a bit more work into the editing, and it seems like that's being well received. So thanks guys. Thank you for liking this video. Thank you for subscribing if you're new. Of course, we are incredibly close to 200,000 subscribers here on the channel, and you're all welcome. So why not like, subscribe, hype the video up, comment, share, tell every member of your family to subscribe to Football Therapy, and let's get into it. Right, first of all, I'd like to say I'm not a news source. I've never claimed to be. I'm a content creator. I look at what's sort of trending and being spoken about Chelsea, and I choose what I think is interesting. Of course, I like to find as many creditable sources as possible. There's a couple of sources that keep coming up in your sort of aggregation on your like Google search algorithms and stuff. And one is Fichajes, however you say it, in the Spanish media, that seemingly comes out with the most sensational, radical, almost certainly nonsense. I'm sure they're a big publication. I don't understand how they get away with saying some of this stuff. And of course, there's this Twitter account that was recently accredited by David Ornstein. IndyCar News. Yesterday saying exclusive, Chelsea are in direct contract with Real Madrid. The subject is Rodrygo. Chelsea willing to do a deal for January or summer. Confirmed. This story is also being cited by the aforementioned Fichajes. I don't know if that's how you say it, but they also talk about how Chelsea are offering £80 million or euros to sign Rodrygo in January. Now, of course, Rodrygo is a hugely desired player. He is out of favour at Real Madrid at the moment. He's not being played by Xabi Alonso. He's looking to other players. But this is, I really want to swear, this is B word. It could be 2 different B words. It could be the excrement of a bull, or it could be the gonads of a man. Look, Chelsea have got loads of wingers, yeah? Ones that are doing well. Garnacho is doing really well. He is young. Gittins was profiled and expected to do well at Chelsea, and he's got a high ceiling. On the right side, you've got Pedro Neto, who's only 25, yet a senior, experienced winger. You've got the majestic, the sensational, the talented Brazilian Samba boy, Estevão. Sounded anticlimactic when I said it like that. As well as, Cal Palmer and other players that can play. For sure, wow, Pedro can play on the flanks. Why would you bring in an £80 million signing in January and pay him what can only be assumed to be insanely high wages that's almost certainly out of your wage structure? It's nonsense. Now, I realize I've spent the beginning of this video talking about 2 sources that I don't believe, but I kind of want to just reference how these are popping up everywhere and aggregated. And I think separately over the 6 years I've done this, I've referenced both of them. The IndyCar News, probably because David Ornstein gave them an accreditation at one point, but since they've just come out with sort of seemingly nonsense. And I've tried to dodge that Spanish outlet, but it pops around everywhere. It's being aggregated a lot in the algorithms. I wanted to reference that I've seen them, season, and I think it is, you know, pick your B word there. It was more of a sort of my own football therapy moment here to react to the fact how these are headlines all over the gaff, and of course, I have to give my opinion on, I choose what I present here in the content, and moving forwards, I won't be reacting to stuff like that unless it's perhaps looking like it's more promising source. But the fact how, yeah, look, can I just say, I would be very, very surprised if Chelsea signed Rodrygo in January. Yeah, I'm sure there's some Chelsea fans that will be excited. He's a superstar, but I think it could do damage as well as good. I think there's a gamble, and it's a very expensive gamble. So let's move on, and let's talk about Romeo Lavia and cite an article from The Athletic. Simon Johnson and Colin Miller write the following. Chelsea midfielder Romeo Lavia is set to miss at least 1 month with a quadricep injury. 21-year-old sustained the injury in the 6th minute, of course, playing away at Karabag and was placed by Caicedo. Of course, injuries have been the narrative since we bought him for £53 million, plus an additional £5 million in add-ons in the summer of 2023. The match in Azerbaijan was the midfielder's 30th appearance for Chelsea across more than 2 seasons at the club, where he is yet to complete a full 90 minutes. That is absolutely chicken oriental, mate. He's never completed 90 minutes for Chelsea in all the years he's been with us. Now he's only made 30 appearances, and some of them are 4-minute appearances, like the other day. He's of course a huge talent. We bought him as a 19-year-old, I think. Remember, it was great fun when we signed him, because it was that summer we signed Caicedo and Lavia, 2 midfielders that Klopp were desperate for at Liverpool. Of course, they had a record fee agreed to sign Moises Caicedo for £111 million. Caicedo went, no, I want to go to Chelsea. Look at this picture of me in a Chelsea shirt with my mum a few years ago. Chelsea, I love Kante, I don't want to go to you, Klopp. And for bonus additional bants, Lavia did the same. They were chasing him for a while, he came to Chelsea. Chelsea got what are 2 incredibly talented young midfielders. Yeah, Lavia is like the theoretical footballer at the moment. You know, he's Schrodinger's midfielder. I think I've used the Schrodinger joke before, but it's fun. Look, he's out for just a month, but it's just another month in a million months. Do you know what I mean? I do have huge concerns for Lavia, because I see his talent. I know he makes this team a lot better, and had he been like constantly fit and constantly available, there's a very good chance, an argument made by some, not necessarily me, that he's a starter for Chelsea. That actually, the trio of always injured boys should all be starting for Chelsea. And these are, of course, the now recently healed Touchwood, Reece James at right back, right centre back, central midfield, wherever you want to play him. Wesley Fofana, for me, he's my starting right centre back. You guys know I love him. And he looks like he played 90 minutes the other day. Could he be following in the footsteps of Reece James and being in the healed category? And of course, there's Romeo Lavia, who looks like he may never reach the, you know, the greener pastures of not being injured all the time. I do have huge concerns, but he is still very young. The fact how we signed him when he was still a teenager means he has much more of his career in front of him for us to sort him out. We do have reason to sort of slowly believe in the medical team, but my word, Romeo Lavia, this situation is concerning. But don't sleep on him. A lot of people just thought I did the same with Fofana when I was trying to big him up in his big injury spell. People were like, yeah, what you doing? Why do you keep talking about him? But he's come back, he's looked good. Again, touchwood, I hope he does continue to look good. And I hope one day we can do the magic on Romeo Lavia, because he will make Chelsea and Maresca's Chelsea a lot better. Remember, I always say it, Cole Palmer said he's the most underrated footballer in the world. He's actually a very good footballer, and he's ours. He's just always injured. Okay, let's move on, speak about another midfielder and then some international break stuff before we finish on this football.london video talking about our player values, which is positive. So, Moises Caicedo has played a total of 945 minutes this season out of a potential 990 minutes. That is insane. We're just going into the November international break. He's nearly played 1,000 minutes. On a positive as well, he's been playing amazing. No player has made more interceptions than Moises Caicedo in the Premier League this season. He's amazing. He's a superstar. He's apparently unbreakable, hopefully unbreakable, because like I said, as Sue goes out till the new year, Romeo Lavia we simply can't rely on until one day we can. Will that day ever come? So Moises Caicedo is a one-man central defensive midfield. Do you know what I mean? The fact how he had to come on the other day after 4 minutes away in Karabakh. Now, he is going away on an international break, but he's only playing one friendly with Ecuador. They're playing 2 games. He's going for the second, I guess, or is he coming back early? Either way, he's only playing one of the 2, so Chelsea can protect him. Now, similarly on protective measures for international breaks, his midfield partner, Enzo Fernandez, is not going away with Argentina. Now, this is hugely positive news for the Chelsea vice-captain and us Chelsea fans, and of course, Enzo Maresca. He'll be a miss for Argentina, but he's got no risk of being dropped. He knows that place will always be there for him, so missing a camp won't be the end of the world. He's got a bit of a problem in his knee, apparently. Although he's been playing football, apparently he's been playing through pain. I do wonder if there's a little bit of a protective measure coming from Maresca in Chelsea here. Maybe he could have gone, but Chelsea are just thinking, look, we are playing so much football. You know, this guy played in the Club World Cup. Stay at Chelsea, do some rest and recovery. Let's, stay close by where we can keep an eye on you and your knee, because he's been playing really well, Enzo Fernandez. He fluctuates sometimes, but his goals and assists, he covers so much ground. He's obviously leading on the pitch, and the fact how he's not going away on international break is a huge positive for us. It really, really is, which also brings me to the trio of Brazilian Samba boys. So João Pedro, Andrés Santos, and Estevão Willian have all been called up for the Brazil national team, but fortunately for us, they are only playing 2 friendlies, and both of them are in Europe. They're actually playing in the Emirates, the Arsenal Stadium, on the 15th of November, and the 18th they're playing in Lille, which is not far at all. Travelling up to Scotland would be longer in some instances. This is hugely good news, because when the South Americans go, whether it's of course Fernandez or Caicedo, or indeed the 3 Brazilian players, they usually fly all around South America, sometimes into different altitudes. They get all jet lagged and it screws them up. But the fact how Moises Caicedo is playing one friendly, Fernandez is staying, and all the Brazilians aren't going, they're not going further away than an 1 hour time difference, and one of the games in London is hugely positive news for us Chelsea fans. And I'm hoping after this international break, as loads of these players will be feeling fresh and feeling good, we are actually expecting Cole Palmer to be healthy for a return after the international break. I mean, I'm hoping so. I hope we're not just going to try and throw him in because it's like Barcelona and Arsenal and, it's such high-profile games, because there'll be no match sharpness. So I'm a little bit worried, but just Cole Palmer coming back in any context can only be described as great news. So I'm feeling pretty good. Yeah, let me know your thoughts on all these situations with the players. Now let's jump over to this article on football.london and learn a little bit about player valuation. Right, so Jake Stokes writes the following. Since Todd Boehly and Clearlake Capital joined forces to buy Chelsea Football Club from Abramovich in 2022, they've signed some of the most exciting young players in the world. The consortium was heavily scrutinised at first, forking out hundreds of millions on unearthed talent from across the world, but the likes of Estevão Willian, who they agreed to sign well in advance of his arrival, are slowly integrating in the starting lineup and have proved there's method to their madness. Yes, can I just say, they did join forces, but they've since split forces. There is still that rift in the ownership, and it's of course important to offer the disclaimer at this point, they are not completely accepted by the entire Chelsea fan base, the ownership. Maybe if they start, winning Premier Leagues, there's a sustainable feel, and there's the bond with the match-going fans, and the team continues, he will be fully, or the consortium will be fully accepted by the fan base, and even then, there's still that rift that needs to be repaired. Of course, it's a tough act to follow when you're following Abramovich. Not that I need to remind you of the context, of course. Here's some interesting valuations of some players they have purchased. So, of course, Estevão Willian we bought for £29 million. He has been valued by CIES Observatory as £104 million, only behind Lamine Yamal as the most valuable teenager in the whole of world football. And I reckon Estevão Willian's value is just going to go up and up. Now, this is an interesting one. Joel Hatto is valued at £59 million. The 19-year-old was purchased for still a hefty sum of £37 million. And he's the 3rd most valuable teenage defender in the world. 37 million quid did seem like, and still does seem like, a lot for Joel Hatto, but if he's a legitimate backup to Marc Cucurella, of course he's only 19, he was captaining Ajax at 17 years old, so yeah, he's a high profile purchase and, positionally versatile apparently. I know he had a bit of a howler the other day at Karabakh, but he is a good young player, and it's interesting, of course these values are dictated by age profile and contract length. They're certainly taken into account. So the fact that we're buying them young, putting them on long deals, it basically means their valuation in the market landscape of football is very high. Mark Dew. Now, Chelsea signed him for only £5 million, you'll remember, which was a buyout clause, I think. He's been valued at £38.6 million. Nearly 40 million quid for the teenage striker. That's what, 8 times the amount we've purchased him for? Nearly. Maths, Jan. Doesn't surprise me at all. He is, strikers are at premium. He looks like he can mix it with the big boys. Of course, he needs more experience. He's again on a long contract. But yeah, Mark Dew at the time, everyone was saying he was just an absolute no-brainer. It was impossible to lose money on him. It was literally impossible. Barcelona wanted to re-sign him on a deal where there wasn't a £5 million buyout clause, but he was tempted by Chelsea, probably gave him wages, and dare I say, the project where there's loads of young players for him to play with and, grow up among, and maybe he felt less pressure at Chelsea than trying to break into the Barcelona team. Who knows? I really like Mark Dew. I don't necessarily think he'll make it at Chelsea. Many of you do, and I hope he does as well. If he makes it, it means he gets better than Delap, probably, or something like that. But yeah, an amazing investment. Tyreek George has been valued at £25.3 million. Of course, he is a Cobham graduate, so he's a pure profit asset. Lots and lots of money indeed. I wonder what the agreed potential buyout is, because he was about to go to Fulham, wasn't he, on loan, and that broke down. And since he's been playing for Chelsea, but he's been shoehorned in the centre forward position, which I do not like at all. I wonder if he went on loan to Fulham, what the buy option would have been. It might have been around 20 million quid or something like that. I do think out of him and the next player, Josh Champong, Josh is the one for me, because we've seen him play right centre-back, left centre-back, sort of that reserved right-back role, and indeed inverting into the midfield. I think he's such a useful player for Josh Champong. So let's speak about him next. Now, he's been valued actually less than Tyreek George at £23.3 million. Of course, he's also a pure profit asset, being from the academy. Now, Tyreek George is an attacker. Attackers are often worth more money than defenders, so that kind of makes sense. But for me and what I imagine for Maresca, Tyreek George, Josh Champong, is more valuable to this team than Tyreek George is. You'd have to say, that's what I think, purely because we've got so many wingers. Striker options, I'd rather play the aforementioned Mark Dew at striker than Tyreek George. And of course, Emmanuel Omega's coming, and we've got Delap, and I'd probably even prefer Pedro Neto playing false 9 than Ty. I really like Tyreek George. I think he's a good Premier League level winger, but winger's the word, and I don't see him starting over our other winger options, so I think he'll probably get sold in the future. Lots of high value teenagers, but I'll be very interested to learn the value maybe in another video of the likes of Malo Gusto, which was a relatively low investment. Of course, players like him and Renato Vega proved to be sensible buys. And we're in a position now where we're making money in trading, and of course, I've covered this extensively on the channel, but I feel like we've got a really good squad as well. We're not just asset stripping the squad, it feels like we're adding to it. And hopefully, by the time the average age of this team is actually 25 years old and not underneath it, and an average age of 25 is still young, by the way, that it's a settled, really talented team that could go on to play for another 5+ years together and win big trophies. That's the plan, right? But of course, the proof will be in the pudding. Anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts. Please do leave them down in the comment section below. Thanks for hyping up the video. Which side is it? The hype button down here somewhere. Swipe and hype on your thumb. Thank you for liking and subscribing. You're all welcome, of course. And yeah, I hope to see you back here very soon. Daily videos here on the channel. Take care of yourselves. Peace.
You ain't so tough with that bad boy tuck. I'ma get it how I'm living, I'ma walk the walk. Outline my lines, I rap through thought. Body bag the verse, outlined in chalk. In my life seen trouble, hustle on the double. Silence on the trigger like my pick got a muzzle. Yo, chick like to guzzle, bad boy stay in trouble. I only love this paper, sorry I don't. I laugh me, baby.